This work is funded in part by the Minnesota Humanities Center, with money from the Arts and Heritage Fund that was created with the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4, 2008.
Hi, I'm Mark Hughes. Welcome to this edition of Disability Viewpoints. My co-host this time is Joan Willshire. You'll notice today we have a little different format here. We're going to have a panel format, which consists of 4 or 5 guests because of the nature of the way government is changing, that we want each representative from each organization to tell their side of the story. And, for example, the problem is and what are we going to do? And then a final word segment in case there's anything we've forgotten. So it'll be a new format. It'll be a little faster moving, but we'll have different representatives from different organizations. So stay tuned in just a minute. And Joan Willshire is here, and so we want to say hi to her and find out what she's got coming up today.
Definitely. The new format, I think, will be much more educational to our viewers, and it gives our organizations and the disability community some time to really do some retrospect and get the word out on the important issues that are happening right now.
Very good. So we'll be back in just about 2 minutes to kick this all off, our new format. We're excited here at Disability Viewpoints. We hope you are too. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Mark Hughes. Welcome to this edition of Disability Viewpoints. My co-host today is Joan Willshire. You may notice a little different look on the set. There's a bunch of us up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then one on Zoom is 5. That's what they call a panel. It's a new format we're trying out because of the things that are going on in public life or political life these days. We want to give each person from different organizations a chance to tell their story and have kind of the last word. And so now we're going to ask Joan Willshire to introduce our guests and go ahead and proceed.
Great. Well, welcome all of you. First up, we've got Jesse Gomez, Executive Director of the Metropolitan Center for Independent Living. We've got Janet Stewart from ICI, University of Minnesota, who writes a wonderful, is the editor for Impact Magazine. We've got Lee Shervheim, the board chair of the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, and proud parent of 3 daughters with developmental disabilities. And then there's Mark right there, and then of course via Zoom, we've got an individual from Pacer, Associate Director, Gretchen, Godfrey.
You notice how when she mentioned Mark, nobody got excited, but that's okay. I'm still around. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, right. Thanks. There we go. So we are all set. We wanted to start off right now. We've got some troubling times coming our way, coming from our new administration in Washington, D.C. So we wanted to pull the panel together to talk about so many issues that are happening here. And so we'd like to just go around right now and talk about the issues that are the most prevalent in your realm and your issue areas and so forth. So we'll.
In other words, what's on your mind?
Yeah, and then when we're done with that little round robin, we'll also come back and what are we going to do? Because we all see the issues on the horizon, but what can we and how can we resolve or move forward? So Jesse, let's start with you.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here with you all. Metropolitan Center for Independent Living, as a Center for Independent Living, is interested in advancing the independent living for people with disabilities, both with apparent and non-apparent disabilities. We were asked to be part of a panel that looked at solutions for the direct care workforce shortage crisis. I was one of the technical writers that wrote the report from a cross-agency committee that brought forth in March of 2018 8 major recommendations to solve the direct care workforce shortage crisis. Back then, we had a direct care workforce shortage gap of about 10,000 people. Today, that gap is 53,000. So when I hear that the next $6 billion budget shortfall is in part due to long-term services and supports due to adults with disabilities, from our perspective, we need to figure out how do you go upstream to solve the crisis. And Metropolitan Center for Independent Living, since 2018, is working on solutions. For instance, we have the first ever in the United States of America PCA College Service Corps, where we're engaging colleges and universities in a culture of care for college students to work up to 30 weeks on the average of 10 hours a week as a PCA, assisting a person who was assessed at 10 or more hours of PCA assistance per day and directs their own care. $4,500 incentive taxable bonus award, making $20 an hour. What we are enthused about is how college students want to be a part of this, part of the solution. MCIL, the last number of years have developed curriculum, whereas the certified nursing assistant serves the medical model. We've developed for the first time ever an 80-hour, 12 essential competencies of a curriculum that leads to the credential of a certified direct support professional. And we are working with 4 colleges and universities. This is a volunteer level tied legislatively to an 18.75% wage differential. So what does that mean? That means that college students can pick up the certified direct support professional, apply to the degree, work in the direct care area. That means family members could pick up that certification, serve in the direct care workforce. It means job seekers could also participate in that, in our current direct care workforce shortage, or direct care workers as well. 18.75% at a $20 base leads to close to $24. So these are ways that both of these efforts are first in America, where this isn't similar to other states and their certified PCA programs. This is to work within the institutions of higher learning. And the question is, why would we want to do that? And the answer is, Minnesota had a moonshot to go after 1,000 certified nursing assistants. How did they do that? They simply went to higher education and pulled people in. Our direct care workforce issue is that it is our providers at each of the individual direct care lines of services. So we want to say, wait a minute, we've got to take a macro approach to solve a macro crisis. Do you know, for instance, that a person in nursing home skilled services, the cost on the average is $153,000 per year. People are forced out of their homes into long-term care settings. They want to get back home. They can't because we don't have enough workers.
Right.
You know, you can't cut yourself out of a deficit.
Right.
You have to figure out how to solve the problem, get in there, and we believe that these efforts lead to what? Stabilizing people with disabilities and older adults. That leads to the vibrancy of community, which leads to economic sustainability. We're very excited about this work and working within Minnesota, scalable throughout the country as well.
And this will also help with the recent elimination of some of the community living programs and services
That's exactly right.
announced from HHS.
That's exactly right. We're concerned about cuts to long-term services and supports, home and community-based services, Medicare, potential concern over Social Security, of MAEPD. All of these are critical benefits. Why are these important? Because they stabilize people in community, leads to vibrancy of community, and what's at stake is the economic well-being of all parts of our community. It's critically essential that we look at these types of solutions to solve these types of issues. You can't cut your way out of a budget deficit. You have to get in there, fix things, and that's been the track record of I've been involved in helping every single governor since Arnie Carlson, I'm happy to say.
That's a while. Good for you.
Let's move on to you, Janet, from
Great.
ICI.
Yeah, I'm with the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. And we are a University Center of Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, which is one of the federally designated centers that came out of the DD Act. So we do research, training, education, and community outreach in all kinds of developmental disabilities. But we are not an ivory tower. Our strength is in our community relationships with all kinds of groups. We run a Minnesota Lend program in neurodevelopmental disabilities that brings together dozens of professionals to talk about better ways to both care for and support people with disabilities in all aspects of their lives. But ICI is a highly productive and highly regarded center of excellence in developmental disabilities. We're a project of national significance in residential living for people with disabilities. We're one of several sites that tracks the prevalence of autism and other developmental disabilities. And we run the Minnesota Lend program in neurodevelopmental disabilities. And so all our work really is about the partnerships that we have with different organizations around the community. And it really comes down to partnering with these folks to make people have better lives.
Great. And Lee, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, first of all, to be here. And I'm here today mostly just as a parent to kind of share some of the concerns that we have as we look across the landscape and what's happening in our federal government especially. Just a little bit about my story. So I'm a dad of 7. I've been married to my wife for 34 years. We have 4 boys and 3 girls.
Wow.
3 of our boys are out figuring out how to be adults, which is wonderful and great. We still have 1 at home in high school. But we have 3 daughters, and each of our daughters has a developmental disability. In their cases, it's Down syndrome. Anne was born in 2004. And when she was born, we started, trying to figure out what this space and world was all about and what her life was going to look like. And I think, one of the most interesting things is we wanted Anne to have a life just like her brothers had. That was one of our goals. We wanted her to be able to make choices, and we wanted her to be happy. And those 2 things have kind of been our guiding principles. A few years after Anne was born, we started looking at, what's her life going to look like, and we wanted companionship for Anne. So we got in touch with a group called Reese's Rainbow, who facilitates adoptions, particularly in the Eastern European countries. And so 2 of our sons and my wife and I traveled to Ukraine, and we adopted Katie and Emmy from Ukraine. And at the time, Katie was 5 and Emmy was 4. So we had Anne, Emmy, and Katie as our daughters. And as time has gone on, I just looked at the number of things within the government that we've touched. They were beneficiaries of early childhood development programs. They've been beneficiaries of the Americans with Disabilities Act. They've been beneficiaries of the IDEA Act by having IEPs and having a free and appropriate public education. They have ABLE accounts. All of those things were facilitated by the government. And as I look at now some of the challenges with dismantling the Department of Education, with the risks that we have to Medicaid funding, as a parent, it's frightening because these were things that we had counted on and planned to count on for them to be able to live the life that they choose. And when that's at risk, we get nervous. And
rightly so.
We want to act. So.
Right.
Okay. Gretchen Godfrey is next. Gretchen, are
Everyone.
you? Hi there. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. For those who aren't familiar, Pacer Center is a nonprofit parent training organization located in Bloomington, Minnesota. We serve families of children with all disabilities from birth through young adulthood. And we do that through 3 main programs: parent training and advocacy, assistive technology, and social inclusion programs. And in terms of our discussion today, one of our core services that we've been doing since Pacer was founded in 1977 was helping families navigate the special education process. And understandably, with all the news and changes at the federal level, we're hearing a lot of concern from parents about what would it mean if the U.S. Department of Education were to close? What does that mean for my child's IEP? Things like that. And so one message I want to get across is that as of today, there hasn't been any actual changes in terms of special education law, policy, or funding. So families should know that, any IEPs or 504 plans that their children have are still in place, still need to be followed. So we just want to reassure people, because I think a lot of the news has talked about everything's going away. And while I'm not saying people shouldn't have concerns, we also don't want people to panic when we haven't reached that stage yet. And so, one thing we're watching certainly closely is any potential proposals to move
I'll
special
take a break as
education
soon
to
as I
another
can.
department would be concerning. Paying attention to the funding, the staffing cuts at the Department of Education. We're following all of that closely. So
Okay.
happy to expand on any of that as
Joan, can I jump in here? We got to take a break, but we'll be right back in the blink of an eye. Stay tuned to Disability Viewpoints. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching. Okay, whenever you're ready, another 5 count, and I'll get it right back rolling. And I think was Gretchen, were you, before I get back on, do you have some more, or were you done?
That was my intro. I got.
You're great.
You
So
guys for a while, so I don't know if I followed the
we're
same as everyone
gonna
else.
we're gonna go to the we're gonna go to the $1 million question. What are we gonna do, right? And so again, we're gonna go in a round robin. Everybody a chance to answer up on what are we gonna do. Then I'm gonna take one. So we'll have to move that pretty rapidly because we're down to 11 minutes. So then we're gonna take one more break and do the final word segment. That way, everybody can clean up whatever we forgot. Okay, so are we ready all? Because I'm going to give me a 5 count and control, will you please? Welcome back to Disability Viewpoints. I'm Mark Hughes. Going to turn this over again to Joan Willshire. Now we ask the big question of, with all that's going on, what do we do next? And so, Joan, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Well, do you have the solution, Jesse?
Well, we do have a document that I'm happy to share with everybody that will make
Can we
it
get a close-up
available
of that?
at MCIL. And it is called the National Declaration for Strengthening Direct Care Services and Benefits for People with Disabilities and Older Adults. So context matters. What are some of the items that we need to fix? Where do we go from here? For instance, certain federal and state programs have asset limitations for individuals with disabilities and older adults. A $2,000 asset limitation for these services, federal and state services, have been in place since 1983 at $2,000 for individuals and $3,000 for couples. I know of no other asset limitation for the trillions of dollars that we have as an economy over 40 plus years that have remained static and the same. Let me repeat that. A $2,000 asset limitation that's 40 plus years old, 42 years old. Why is that? So yes, we're looking at cuts, but we've got to go beyond that. Ed Roberts was the person who started the Centers for Independent Living. What would Ed do? That's what we always say.
Yeah.
And this national declaration says, wait a minute, you know what? We need to have a cost of living increase. We're working with Nickel and Theo Brady on how do we look at moving this kind of work forward. I just want to give you one example that not only are we deeply concerned about the double-edged sword of federal cuts and of the budget shortfalls that are potentially looking at between a 1.3 to 1.6 potential billion-dollar cut to services for people with disabilities, that we have to really step back. And let me just say this and we'll move on. I believe that what's critical is that we think about who we are from two foundations as a democracy. Number one, the inalienable rights of people, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But the invisible one that must come center stage is human dignity. And this is my definition of human dignity. It is self-evident that human dignity is equally endowed amongst all people throughout the world, throughout all time. So when we look at policies since 1983, how many presidents, how many senators, how many congresspeople, how many governors, how many local, state, and legislative bodies have gone through 40 years where in the lexicon of human dignity, is it right that we should be at a $2,000 asset limitation? That is not good enough for who we are as a society. So there's much work for us to do, but I believe times like this bring the best out, because here's what I believe, that ever since we see these kinds of dramatic cuts, the most noble value we have as a society is to advance the ability of people to care for one another. And that's what this is about universally in terms of who we are as a democracy. I'll leave it at that, but we will make this document available to you through the mcil-mn.org website as well.
Great.
Got about 7 minutes, so
We're focused on telling our story
Yeah.
over and over in as many venues as we possibly can. I edit a magazine at the Institute. Our organizations recently held a forum where a lot of people attended and told some good stories there. And Lee, you can probably say some more about this. But we're really just kind of focused on bringing this
Tell the
message
story.
because this is really a bipartisan issue. Disability has really traditionally been a bipartisan issue, and that's something we really have to continue to stress before a lot of these changes do take effect. We have to take advantage of that and really make people see that this is something that really affects so many people. It's not just people with disabilities themselves, but it really transcends a lot of different issues. And
Right.
just the notion that this isn't just policy, this is life and death.
exactly. Lee?
Thank you. I kind of have two avenues that I'm working on personally, and I think it works for everybody. One is to dust off the civics books and be a good citizen, and be an engaged citizen. There is a lot happening right now.
It all starts
And-
there.
And it does start there, and knowing who your legislators are, knowing where they stand on the issues, staying informed. And the second part is, I would just echo what Janet said about being prepared to tell your story. I'm probably the most reluctant storyteller out there, but you have to do things that are sometimes uncomfortable, and you have to do things that you couldn't maybe envision yourself doing. And I can't think of anything better to do with my time than advocate for my daughters, because I really do want them to have
Great.
the very best life possible.
That's a great dad right there. And Ms. Godfrey, what are we going to do? Oops. Stand by. We got to. We'll come back.
Oh, it was my,
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'm ready. So because we can't predict exactly what this executive order about the U.S. Department of Education will lead to, right now, similar to what the previous panelist said, I think parents who are concerned should just stay in touch with their U.S. senators, representatives, and state legislators, and just let them know that they're paying attention and special education is important. That will hit the right message no matter what kind of specific proposals
Okay.
might fall.
All right. We got about 5 minutes left, so what I'm going to do is take a break, and we'll be right back to do the final word segment right after this. Stay tuned. Okay, when you want to give me a 5 count, we'll hit it again. Please. Yep. Hi, on our last segment, usually on Disability Viewpoints, we do the final word segment, and that means we got about 5 minutes left, so we'll do it pretty rapidly. And this is the final word segment, so whoever wants to go first, and Joan, you're welcome to respond if you'd like to too.
Well, this is truly interesting. We've got lots of good conversation going here. So, Jesse, what are your final words here regarding all this important issue on direct care services?
You know, we shan't give in to fear that it is about being an active citizen. It's about making voices heard and to be available and to talk with people and to work with elected officials to make certain that they are aware that this is about humanity. This is about real people.
4
This is
minutes,
about
okay.
people who need to live the full life with supports who add to the vibrancy of who we are as a society. So, you know, let us not be afraid, but let us go forth with a sense of active citizenship of who we are as a people.
Okay, great.
I would
Shannon?
just say that over the last 50 years, people with disabilities are today much more likely to not be living in a residential institutional setting. They're much more likely to be in school and learning. They're much more likely to have a paid job that's above minimum wage. But there's so much more that we still need to do. The direct support workforce crisis is so real. And folks like our institute are out there helping people retain and recruit better professionals that are taking, really strong roles in supporting people with disabilities. And so we have to just continue to make sure that
Great.
goes
Lee, we got 3 minutes left. Go right ahead.
Last week, the Governor's Council hosted a kind of a forum, a town hall. We included the ICI folks, and each of the members got a chance to tell their story. And it's hard not to be a pessimist in these times, but I'm reminded of what Cory Booker said during his lengthy speech. I caught just the last part of it, but something he said I don't think I'll ever forget, and he says, the power of the people is always greater than the people in power. And so, I take comfort in that, knowing the voices that are speaking. And
Right.
And our superstar down in Bloomington, the final word?
Sure. So even though I focus my comments on special education, we also like to say that, students with disabilities are general education students first. And even though special education hasn't been directly under threat yet, all these efforts to undermine the U.S. Department of Education as a whole, definitely has the potential to disabilities and make us lose ground on some of the inclusion efforts that have happened over the years. So that's another reason we're really focused on this issue.
Well, great. And I'm gonna have to call it a day here, but I want to personally thank everybody for putting in such a gallant effort today. It's been like a college education. We've all learned a lot here. We're going to continue these panels. Probably next time we're on, we're going to do hopefully a little something on special education. But you're all invited back. Just let us know anytime. And at this point, I want to especially thank Joan Willshire because she put this all together. And it's been a wonderful show. I'm Mark Hughes, and I'm proud to be a part of this. And thanks for watching Disability Viewpoints. We'll see you all next time. Thank you all. Bye for now. Well, believe it or not, that was a pretty fast-moving half hour, 28 minutes, 30 seconds, as we say in television, but I think the new format went well. Joan did her usual superb job of anchoring. She kind of replaced me today, but I just sit back here and kind of technical direct for timekeeping and all that. And we know, as the way government is changing, that there are so many issues and so many fluid issues at that we want to keep doing this format. So if you enjoyed it at home, we kind of enjoyed it here. And I want to thank Joan for putting that all together and the tireless hours of long work it took to do it. But I appreciate her. And your final thoughts, Joan?
Absolutely. It's apparently what's needed right now in the disability community because, as we know, there's so many issues. And with a fast-changing environment with the federal government and just our own local state government, we've got to be up to date and moving fast and forward ourselves. And I'd like to end this segment by talking about a colleague of ours who had passed away, Leslie Orr. A wonderful woman. She was a performer. She loved the arts and worked quite diligently within the performing field. She was actually an author too. She's written many articles and a book. And she was definitely all about inclusion as an actor and a performer, and just as a person with a disability as well. So wanted to make special note in memory of Leslie Orr.
Yeah, we send our condolences to the family, and she was pretty young too, and she'll be sadly missed. So that's going to be it for Disability Points for this time, but we'll have another panel format, we hope, next time. We hope to see you then too. So thanks for watching. I'm Mark Hughes on behalf of Joan Willshire and the entire team here at Disability Viewpoints and SPNN. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.
This work is funded in part by the Minnesota Humanities Center, with money from the Arts and Heritage Fund that was created with the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4, 2008.